we can have a pity party all day. But let's talk about some ways around this. The good news is that there are a number of what are considered fiduciary-based benefits firms emerging in the market. Okay? So they're basically management consulting firms who specialize in healthcare financing and procurement. They don't accept any compensation from vendors, the insurers or pharmacy benefit managers, etc. And this way they sit on the same side of the table as the employer so that they can provide the employer with unbiased advice. And so we encourage people to seek them out.
Are you tired of working more for less profits in your home service business? What if I could show you $100,000 in hidden annual profits in your business in less than 3 minutes? Would you be interested? And not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend guaranteed. Just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com to see how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now. And we are back on STS Sharpen the Spear podcast with another incredible guest. I've got Donovan Pyle with us today, and we are going to get into an amazing conversation, as we always do, because I just can't help myself. But that being said, Donovan, no one knows Donovan better than Donovan. So Donovan, bring us up to speed. Give us that backstory. Then we're going to get into what we're doing today, what we're going to talk about, and let's have a good time. Here we go.
Sounds good. Well, Richard, it's great to be here. Yep. And my name's Donovan Pyle. I'm the CEO and founder of Health Compass Consulting. I'm the author of Fixing Healthcare, How Executives Can Save Their People, Their Business, and the Economy. And I'm a senior advisor at the Validation Institute up in Boston. It's great to be with you today.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So the book, the subtitle, that's some high claim right there.
Yeah.
Okay, those things. And I love it. And that's why I want to talk about this stuff. So let's get into it first. Like, what was and it's somewhat obvious, but probably not to our listeners. What was the real catalyst for writing the book itself?
Sure. So I'm a former industry insider who basically saw how the sausage was being made and said, oh my goodness, there are so many misaligned incentives in the legacy architecture of this industry that people just don't know about. And this industry has only been around for about 90 years. And it's just amazing. We take things for granted that, best practices are really what's best. And if you take a step back and look at the supply chain, how healthcare is typically financed and procured for 164 million Americans each year, you start to wonder, wow, maybe some of these things don't exactly make sense.
Yeah, that's and I don't think you need to be an expert to kind of, if you'll just take a second to look at it, it should be, blaringly obvious, right? I look at this stuff and again, why I was excited when I saw your one sheet, I'm looking like, okay, this guy's got to be on the podcast. Even if it's for only selfish reasons, because I want to talk to him. Okay. But it's such a fascinating topic and what you're doing when you look at this stuff, because I work in businesses every day, right? This is what I do. And this is always that sticking point. It's always that struggle. It's always I call it a burden, right? It's a burden. And I think I know things and I think I might have a way to fix things, but I've never really been able to talk to someone who's done it. Give me some roadmap. Give me something. Give me real alternatives. Give me a real roadmap that I can actually take action on for me, my team, for other businesses and stuff like that. That's why I want to get into this.
Yeah. Happy to share. So just a little bit of backstory. I worked for a multinational insurer. Benefits brokers were my customers. During my time on the carrier side of the business, I was starting to learn about how some companies in some parts of the country, like right here in Orlando, Florida, where Rosen Hotels is headquartered, Harris Rosen, the founder of that company, he had pioneered some different ways of financing and procuring healthcare for, at the time, he had a couple hundred employees. As of today, they have 6,000 employees. But 30 years ago, he had pioneered some different ways to finance and procure healthcare, and he started getting drastically better results. So much so that he's actually saved his company over $500 million over the past 30 years. And not only that, he's done it by improving benefits and coverage for his employees. So he not only saves a ton of money, but also provides a service, a healthcare service and health plan for his employees that is one of the best in the countries. And so what that's done for his organization is that, if you look at the turnover of his hospitality employees, it's about half. The turnover is about half of what his competitors have. So anyone who studies turnover knows that it is a profit killer, right?
Yep.
So if you can reduce your turnover rate, then you've got a significant advantage in the marketplace. And that's exactly what the Rosen organization has done. So much so that Harris Rosen is now, unfortunately, he passed this last year, but his legacy is actually about the philanthropic work that he's done in our community, sending disadvantaged children to college. I mean, it's just unbelievable what he's been able to do. And he accredits that to he stopped just blindly giving so much money to health insurers and brokers, etc. So long story short, I was inspired by that while I was on the carrier side of the business. And I very naively thought, geez, if I just move to the brokerage side of the business, I can probably start scaling these kinds of innovative solutions that Rosen and others had pioneered. I can probably help a lot of people, and I can probably make some money doing it. So I moved to a national brokerage firm, built a book of business, had some successes with clients, but ultimately got fired for helping our customers and advocating for them. And that was really, the epiphany for me that, oh my goodness, brokers sit in the middle of this transaction, but they're really not incentivized to help employers achieve their financial objectives. And it really comes down to the revenue model of how the brokerage industry was developed, what their role is, and what their role continues to be. So one of the reasons I wrote the book was that to really help executives see the system, right? If you can't see the system and the landscape, you really can't navigate it effectively. So that's really the focus of the book, is helping executives see the system so that they can help fix it for their own benefit and the benefit of their employees.
Yeah, I think that's a real critical aspect, because we can dial down to one word, is awareness. It's like anything. If you're not aware that something's there, well, you'll walk by it, you'll ignore it. It's not an issue. It's not on a priority list. No one pays attention to it, but it could be a drain in your business, like health insurance, right? With all this stuff. It just keeps taking. You don't realize it. And I always give people, this wasn't regular insurance I had. I share this story. For years, I had the insurance agent. I have my business insurance. I'm paying about $24,000 a month for that, my coverage and some vehicles. And okay, great. And I had another friend, a friend of mine, another business owner. He has his insurance guy popping by. He's like, "Hey, Richard, can I quote you, man? Can I just give you a quote?" And apples up. I'm like, "No, man, I'm good, man. My guy takes care of me." I kept telling him that for a couple of years. No, dude,
Yeah.
he's got my back.
Yeah.
And finally, he's like, "Dude, can I?" And I go, "Okay, whatever, man. Go ahead." Then he comes back like 3 days later, sits down, he goes, "Okay, here you go. This is apples to apples. I
Yeah.
took yours and I matched it. Okay, I was paying almost $24,000 a year." He goes, "It's like $6,700
Wow.
for him." I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, even if you go with me, every 2 years you should be shopping." That was it. And I'm like, I was hating on my insurance agent. Okay, we're done. We're changing this right now. I'm never speaking to that man again. Okay, because
Yeah.
they didn't have my interest. I thought they do, and they didn't. And I'm like, it's just those things when you just look at costs in general. You got to always relook at things. But that was a kicker.
Yeah, it's the ignorance tax, right? And as entrepreneurs, we all pay it. It's just part of the journey, right? You got to pay the ignorance tax.
In more ways than we know.
Yes, absolutely. So, in today's states, it's well documented that 25% of what employers spend on healthcare is complete waste, right? So you think about it, employers in aggregate spend $1.3 trillion a year to cover 84.2 million employees and their dependents. And that equals roughly $4,000 per employee per year in lost profits. I mean, that is a massive opportunity. And so, it really comes down to, the role that benefits professionals play and what the needs of employers are. So just, to provide some context for your audience, no one goes into business to provide benefits for their employees. That's not their core competency, right? They do it to help them attract and retain talent, give them a competitive advantage in the marketplace, the talent pool. And so you think about it, they rely on 81% of businesses rely on benefits brokers to help them maximize the return on their benefits investment, right? We're going to spend all this money each year on benefits. How do we get the most value for our money? So 81% of businesses rely on brokers to serve that role. Now, here's the rub though. If you understand the history of the industry and how it was created and roles and responsibilities, then you see that's really not the role that benefits brokers were intended to play. Now, let me elaborate on this. And this is, we have a chapter on this in my book, but it's kind of fascinating. I think, anyone who's into business will find this fascinating is that, during the 1920s, when the medical industry was starting to actually cure people, this was a new concept that they could actually cure people in the 1920s. Because before that, you only went to the hospital if you were indigent and you were dying. And the only thing the hospitals could do back then was basically try to keep you comfortable. That's all the tools that they had. But in the 20s, with the medical advances that were happening, the cost of hospitalization started to really increase. Hospitals were now clean. They understood the value of washing things and keeping things sterilized. So all of these things, they were training doctors and nurses. And so all these things really added to their cost basis. And so the price of hospitalization started to increase, which makes perfect sense. The problem that they found, especially coming into the Great Depression, was that patients who were typically paying cash, keep in mind, back in the year 1900, the average American spent $5 a year on healthcare. $5.
And there was no inflation. There was no such thing in 1900. Okay, it was zero inflation. We operated for 100 plus years at zero inflation. So
that's a whole other podcast.
We're not even getting into that. Okay, we're 13 years prior to the mess, right?
Yeah, we can spend a whole hour just on year 1913.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so there was no such thing as health insurance, right? There was no such thing as health insurance. You just paid cash for healthcare services, just like you paid cash for anything else. So the problem was that, twofold. Hospitals could actually start curing people from diseases, and they weren't the patients that they wanted to cure weren't able to pay them. Didn't have enough money on hand in their pocket to actually pay them. So you may be familiar with this, but in 1929, the first health plan was created. The first health insurance plan was created. Basically, what became the first Blue Cross plan made a deal with the Dallas Teachers Union, right? And it was Baylor University Hospital that created this health plan. And they said, listen, I forget how many teachers they had, but for 50 cents per employee per month, your teachers will be able to come to our nice, clean hospital and deliver their babies. And they won't have to pay anything more. They're going to prepay for these services. And that was a huge, advancement in what the revenue model is and the distribution model is, creating this financing mechanism that allows people to prepay for delivering babies. Great. Okay. So in effect, we think that hospitals and health insurers sit on the opposite sides of the table. In reality, that's not how it played out. Within the next 10 years, other hospitals across the country saw the success of what was happening in Dallas and said, we want to do that too, because we're having the same problem. Can you help us create Blue Cross plans in our communities? And so these hospitals, and I think it was across 14 states in the 30s, the hospitals actually put up the seed money to fund these Blue Cross plans. I mean, that is like, you know, again, because we, in the media today, we think that these entities are not aligned at all. But in reality, health insurers are purely distribution vehicles for hospital services. Okay. So as an employer, healthcare is your second largest expense. You really got to understand that dynamic. Now that's the first part. The second takeaway that I'd like executives to come away with is that health insurers are not very good at distribution themselves, right? And they had W-2 sales forces, they had in-house sales forces until federal minimum wage laws went into effect. When the federal minimum wage laws went into effect, and I think it was 1938, don't hold me to that, but they said, you know what, we can't risk having all these W-2, paying these people minimum wage, who half of them, like any sales team, don't really produce anything, right? They don't really write much business. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna flip all our sales forces to 1099 contractors, and they're gonna eat what they kill. If they write business, we pay them a commission on it, right? We pay them 10% or whatever it was. Fine. So what that inadvertently did, though, was it allowed these now independent 1099 sales agents to sell multiple carriers' products. And keep in mind, back in the 40s and 50s, there were dozens and dozens of carriers in each market, right? Not like today where you've got, a handful that people are familiar with and you've got a bunch of, self-funded plans out there. But there were dozens of products in the market. And so the health insurers inadvertently created the brokerage industry for distribution, retail distribution purposes. So at the end of the day, insurers and brokers are all supply side vendors. They don't work for employers. They're not financially aligned with employers. And so that's a really important thing to understand if you're a fiduciary, at an employer, you're a CFO, you're an HR professional who is making decisions about who you're going to work with, what you're going to buy, etc.
Yeah, for sure. It's complex in a sense. I believe it was, and I'm just, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Rockefellers kind of got into all that in the medical industry early on, that 20s and 30s. They saw this coming, right? They are very long-term thinkers.
Yeah.
Like they're thinking out 100 plus years. Like that's literally how they operate.
They're
right?
playing a different game. Yes.
Yeah, it's a totally different game. So they saw all this, and it's really, like I said, there's so many ways we could go and we're not going to, because we'd never get done, because I just have too much fun talking about all this crazy stuff. But I love the aspect you really have to understand how this was developed and where it's at now. Where you've brought us to right now, Donovan, is really good, because we all have these are they're misconceptions that we have as business owners based on nothing. It's just a feeling like, I think they're do it this way, or wouldn't they do it this way? Wouldn't the right thing to do? And it's like, it's never that.
This is what everybody else does.
Right.
Right. And we all play victim to that, right? Thinking independently is not fun. It's hard on our brain. It takes brain power. So this is why I really wanted to write this book. And so, getting back to the architecture of the industry, as an employer, you're actually federally mandated to know how your broker gets paid. And the reason that the federal government mandates this is because you have to be aware. This transparency, this awareness should inform you that, hey, we've got some misaligned incentives with our broker. Now, I want to add, just a little bit of context here. Benefits professionals are so needed. It's now more than ever. So this is not a dig on benefits professionals themselves. I'm a benefits professional. I'm super passionate about this industry, and we need more people getting into this industry if we're going to meet the needs and demands of employers. So there are thousands of people in this industry who are well-intended and do great work every single day, bend over backwards for their customers. So it's not a dig on the industry itself. My criticism is on the revenue model of the legacy architecture of the industry. So let's dive into quickly how brokers get paid. So the federal government divides this into two categories of compensation, what they call direct compensation and indirect compensation. So direct compensation is what they consider commissions. So, if it might be, usually it's a 4 to 6% commission on the total spend, right? The total health insurance spend. Okay, great. But what that means is that every year when the broker walks in with a 10% renewal increase on what's typically your second or third largest expense, that broker who you task with negotiating on your behalf is actually, when you ask them to do that, you're asking them to negotiate against their financial interests.
Right.
And obviously, people are not very good at that. So when you get that 10% renewal increase, they get a 10% raise. Okay, so that's the first piece. The second piece, second form of compensation, which the federal government calls indirect compensation, is much more pernicious because it really undermines the broker's ability to give you, the employer, unbiased, objective advice on how to maximize the return on your investment. So let me explain. If you stack business with certain carriers, meaning you move as many of your clients into a handful of carriers, you're more likely to hit certain book of business thresholds, and these carriers will pay bonuses to your agency based on your book of business, the volume of business that you have with them. So again, and the larger the firm that you work with, if you work with one of the publicly traded top 5 brokerage firms in the country, the larger these bonuses influence the recommendations that you're getting, because again, they make more money when they recommend certain products over others. And so, it's been cited that as much as 20 to 30% of the employee benefits revenue comes from bonuses, these year-end bonuses from carriers. So again, this undermines their ability to give you unbiased advice. And that's, again, if you're relying on them for what products to buy or not to buy, that's a huge problem, because let's face it, most finance professionals don't have any training in benefits. Most HR people have very little training in benefits. So it's the fox guarding the henhouse.
Yeah. It's that old saying that it's difficult for people to do the right thing when their income depends on not doing the right thing. You're a pastor on a pulpit and you don't want to say certain things because you'll have less butts in the seat who tithe and pay your salary. Right. It's that. So it's this reverse incentive kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And it really skews the whole game. And now you can't get the truth. You have to settle.
Yeah. And to your point, Richard, one of the reasons that I'm passionate about blowing the whistle on this topic is that at the end of the day, the architecture isn't fair to the benefits professionals either, who want to do the right things. Right. So one of the frameworks that we use at Health Compass is what we call the health plan maturity model. So basically what it means is that over time, as your company grows and becomes more sophisticated, so should your health plans, the way that you're financing and procuring healthcare. So, at the early stage, when you're just starting off, companies tend to think of healthcare as a single line item expense. They see the rates, they see the monthly spend, they see the annual spend, and that's all they see. They manage it like one line item expense. As your company becomes more sophisticated and you progress through the maturity model, you gain more visibility to your healthcare supply chain, and you see that it's actually thousands of individual expenses. And having that clarity allows you to manage it and optimize that supply chain, right? How much are you paying for hospitalizations, surgeries, labs, imaging, prescription drugs? These things directly impact your total spend.
Right.
And so the challenge for the legacy brokerage industry is that if they were to help their clients progress through that maturity model so that they can optimize for value over time, they actually have to do more work. And while they're doing more work, they make less money. Right. So who wants to do that? I don't know anybody wants to do that. So it's actually, the system isn't actually fair to them either. So that's why we see so over and over again that employers are stuck at the very early stage, even though we just saw this week. Company that's been in business for 50 years, they're still at the early stage.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's important to have some awareness around this.
Yeah. It's so much work to try to figure that out. It shouldn't be the employer's job, right? Like if I've got a broker, okay, like that's my guy, right?
Yeah.
Like you're the expert. I'm not.
Exactly.
Dude, I make widgets. Okay. I'm over
Yeah.
here busting my hump making widgets.
Yeah.
And now I got to become an expert in this, which I have zero interest in. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's like, the game's kind of rigged. Like you're saying, it's kind of rigged against both the broker and the employer.
Yes, and you're right. It's like you shouldn't have to become, as an employer, you shouldn't, unless you're Walmart, you're a huge company, and you're bringing benefits expertise in house, which they do. For most businesses, they can't afford to bring high quality benefits expertise in house, and really they shouldn't have to. So yeah, I mean, it's really about, okay. The way that I think of it is, as the relationship that we have with our customers is similar to the one that they have with their outsourced legal services, outsourced accounting services, etc. And that, we're the experts in this area, right? Like for my business, I don't want to have to be a tax expert. I have no
Right.
interest in it,
Right.
and it changes every year. I don't have the bandwidth. It's not the best use of my time to keep up with tax law. So I outsource it, and the CPA works for me. I pay them and they work for me. But when it comes to our second largest expense, healthcare, the broker doesn't work for you. And so the analogy that I use, it's like working with a CPA who gets paid by the IRS. It doesn't
Right.
make any sense, right? I mean, if in that scenario, you would be destined to pay so much more in taxes than you probably should. And especially if that CPA made a commission on the taxes that you paid, right? The more taxes you pay, the more money they make. Wow, that is a totally perverse incentive. So that's the situation that so many employers are in right now. Now, here's the good news. We've talked about all the problems, and
Right.
we can have a pity party all day. But let's talk about some ways around this. The good news is that there are a number of what are considered fiduciary-based benefits firms emerging in the market. Okay, so they're basically management consulting firms who specialize in healthcare financing and procurement. They don't accept any compensation from vendors, the insurers, or pharmacy benefit managers, etc. And this way, they sit on the same side of the table as the employer so that they can provide the employer with unbiased advice. And so we encourage people to seek them out.
Okay. So they can go in and in a sense, negotiate for you.
Absolutely.
Is that what they're doing? Is almost like a negotiation or at least an analysis so you can
Well,
have the right data in front of you to make the choice if it's your company. Is that what you mean?
absolutely. So, the process that we use with our customers is what we call APIM. It stands for assess, procure, implement, manage. And so, as consultants, we can't make recommendations in good faith unless we actually understand you at a very deep level, right? I mean, I have no idea what's best for you, Richard. We just met. I have no idea what's
Right.
best for you. We have a formal assessment process so that we can really understand who you are, what you're trying to do, what the challenges are, etc. From there, we turn into our procurement process, where we really give our customers a much greater visibility into the marketplace of strategies and solutions than most of them have ever seen. So, for example, if you're a mid-sized business and you're used to seeing kind of bundled solutions, typically they're used to seeing 4 or 5 different carriers in the market. In reality, for a mid-sized business, maybe 400 or 500 employees, there are dozens of solutions out there that are trying to earn your business, but they often aren't even in the conversation because the broker doesn't show them to them.
Right. Right.
Doesn't mean they're all right for you, but you should be aware of them, and you should be leveraging them as in carrier negotiations.
Yeah. I always found it interesting how you're like, again, I'm by no means an expert in any of this, but this whole like state line, you got to have this and this because you're in this state and you can't cross and you can't get this company over here. And I don't know if that's still the case or or there's different degrees of it, but it seemed to me there were so many restrictions on like who you could have as a provider. I never understood. I'm like, why is it so limited? It seems
Yeah,
like I got like 3 choices. I go, you kidding me? That's rigged as rig can be. You know what I mean? They can all just charge the same thing and just look, I'm a little prettier. Go with me. You know what I mean? It's like you're paying the same thing. So it just was an odd thing for me. I just, again, a point of frustration, as you look at this stuff, it just didn't seem to be like, and I don't even want to use the word fair. It didn't seem like I don't know, I don't know. I don't have a word
Yeah,
for it, but like,
it's a broken system. I mean,
yeah, it's just there wasn't enough variety. Like, how can only three people provide this? Like, what is that? Okay,
well,
there's more car manufacturers than there are insurance providers. I'm like, what's going on here? Like,
yeah. I mean,
so
we've seen rapid consolidation amongst insurance carriers over the past 20 years. We've seen these insurance companies vertically integrate. So what I mean by that is that they're buying the supply side. So let's take a step back. Because what the challenge that you're speaking to, some of it goes back to the regulatory environment. So insurance companies are regulated in health plans in general, whether you're self-funded or not, or are regulated at the state and federal level. And so you've got a pretty complex regulatory landscape that employers can easily run into a landmine in.
yeah,
So yeah, and then just a little bit more context for your audience here is that you've got the individual marketplace, which for whatever reason gets most of the media coverage, even though it's only about 5% of the U.S. population is in the individual marketplace. The vast majority of Americans, or about half Americans, get their health benefits through their employer, what we call the group marketplace. Okay, and that's really where my team specializes in. And then you've got people on Medicare and Medicaid, which is obviously the government sponsored plans. So in the group space, if you move to a partially self-funded chassis, which is a little bit further along the maturity model that we mentioned earlier, that's where you get a lot more flexibility as far as your plan design, what you want to cover, what you don't want to cover. Networks, there's a lot more flexibility that you have in that partially self-funded environment. And so you see a lot more employers actually moving in that direction, partially because of that. So now let's talk about some other, some unintended consequences that the federal government has created. So that the Affordable Care Act, which is landmark legislation in healthcare from 2012, got implemented in 2014. It did some good things in the market. It did some very bad things as well. And one of the bad things that it did was, I'll list two very quickly. First one is something they call the no lifetime limit, no lifetime limitation on benefits. So basically what it means is that instead of saying, health plans can say, we'll pay up to $1 million a year in claims for each employee or each dependent on the plan, we'll pay up to $1 million a year. And after that, you're on your own. That's how most plans around the world work. And there's a simple reason for that. It's impossible to budget for an unlimited expense.
right,
It's impossible to do that.
right.
And yet that's exactly what we've done with the Affordable Care Act. I just did an analysis of Tokyo Marine's annual stop loss report. The number of claims that have exceeded $1 million since 2014, when the ACA was implemented, has gone up 322% over the past 10 years.
Yeah, unbelievable. Here, I have a question, and I might be the only one with this question, but I'm trying to get an understanding. Why is it so regulated? Why does the government feels it should run everything. I get that. But what I'm saying is, why are they in an industry like this in constant regulation? I want to understand the downside of it if it's not regulated. What's going to happen?
Well,
so
yeah.
You can stay high level on this. These are things that pop in my head. I'm like, I don't understand why every time they get their hands in this stuff, okay, it gets wrecked. There's my point. It was great until, they touched it.
Right. It's almost like, whatever the bill's called, it's going to do the opposite.
Yes. That's politics in general.
Yes. Again, that's another podcast.
Right,
But
right.
So I would say, the vast majority of, from my perspective, a lot of these regulations are well intended and they're meant to protect consumers. That's what they're supposed to be doing. Now, of course, does industry capture the government and therefore the regulations eventually? Yes, 100%. But I think the original intent is probably pretty good, that they're there to protect consumers. And to your point earlier, this stuff is complex. A lot of the complexity is intentional. It benefits supply side vendors, insurers, hospitals, brokers. right? A black box. Mark Cuban, who's been on a tear recently, one of my favorite quotes from him is, where there's mystery, there's margin.
Yeah, it's mine is there's profit in confusion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If you ever drove through Chicago in the summertime, where the state animal is the construction horse, okay, you don't know why things are going. They go because someone's making money due to this. You don't know why they even got the road closed off because someone's making money.
Yep.
Okay, because
Absolutely.
it's nothing makes sense, but confusion is there's profit in that. So I'm totally with you. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, and speaking of Chicago, I mean that's basically ground zero for insurance companies.
Right. Yeah.
They're all there. Yeah. So the no lifetime limits is really, again, one of those regulations that's supposed to really help consumers. But at the end of the day, if you look at the cost benefit analysis for the number of people that's really helped versus the detriment to everyone else, it's probably, if anyone does that math, they'll probably come to the conclusion that it's probably not a good trade-off. So that's one of my recommendations for, our trade association to be pushing for, is to remove those lifetime limits.
That's great. So here's my final thought on the thing is I look at this from a business, and I work with business all the time, been a business guy for 35 years, and I get good intentions. Okay. A lot of time, and I get unintended consequences, but the lack of foresight when they develop these programs, again, it goes back to the mystery, to the confusion. They know. Okay, I'm going to make my bold little statement. I'm nobody. They know exactly what's going to happen. Okay, this is not we never could even plan that. This could, you could see it from day one. Like if you got an ounce of discernment, okay, or a little bit, you can see this is where this is going to go. But like most things, they just want to kick the can down the road a little bit. So not on their watch. Yeah. Let this collapse later so that's my frustration, Donovan. It's like, you need real legit business people. Let's do this. It can be profitable. I'm all about making profit. Okay. But also all about delivering more value than people are paying for. You know what I mean? Let's get that balance back. That'd be awesome.
100%. There's a lot of, news about pharmacy and prescription drugs these days, as there should be. The DOJ is investigating pharmacy benefit managers. The FTC is there is a lot of moving pieces right now. So it's really high time to be talking about these things, and rightfully so. I mean, at the end of the day, employers have choices. They have a lot more choices than they think. They just need to be aware of them, and most of them are not aware. And that's why 80% of businesses continue to use what are called the big three pharmacy benefit managers, whose, again, their revenue model is completely opposed to what the interests are of the employer.
Right. So okay. So let's talk solution. Okay. So we've got your book, you have these solutions, these other options. So does a business owner, because they may be hearing this, they may not, where do they go to get these additional options? If we kind of know the game is rigged from a broker standpoint, whether it's unintentional or whatever it is, so they can't go to them.
Right.
Yeah. You can't go to your current guy. So where are we pivoting to, Donovan? Tell us where to go.
It's a fantastic question. So I would encourage people to go to the Validation Institute's website. It's validationinstitute.com. And there they have a list. They're kind of like a consumer watchdog agency. And there they have a list of certified fiduciary-based benefits firms. Okay, now full disclosure, I'm a senior advisor at the Validation Institute, but there's a very good reason. There's a very good reason why they created this certification. And it's to answer your question, which is, how do employers get unbiased advice? Where do they find it?
Right.
And this is exactly why the Validation Institute is building out this list of certified fiduciary-based firms. So that's a good starting point. And as far as what's the process for solving this problem? Number one, you got to get unbiased advice, and you can either do that by getting an external firm that practices and adheres to fiduciary standards, or you bring benefits expertise in-house, which most employers are not big enough to do.
Right. Well, so this is what I love, right? You need that it's like you said, it's like Consumer Reports. You're reading this, it's just unbiased. It's just, we studied this, tested this, whatever, and here it is, and make your own decision.
Yep.
Right. It's that kind of thing. And I really like that because I'd never heard of this. Okay. So
Yeah.
this will definitely be in the show notes. Okay. Obviously you'll hear it right here, but I love this because I'm very much about results and solutions. I'm that kind of guy, so I like to keep complaining to a minimum and solutions to a maximum. Okay.
I love it.
Boil down the problem. Now let's fix it. Okay. We don't have to commiserate for days on end. You've defined the problem and now you're giving solutions, and we're doing all this in less than an hour. That's what I love. Okay. That's what podcasts are for.
Absolutely.
Okay. We're bringing in, this is awesome. So is there anything else, other steps guys would, business owners would take, maybe a couple other things they'd be looking to do aside from this Validation Institute?
Yeah. So, and just to give some inspiration about, to your audience about what the opportunity is for benefits firms that adhere to fiduciary standards and sit on the same side of the table as the employer, most of them are getting results of saving their clients up to $1,000 per employee per year. So at Health Compass, our average customer saves $156 per employee per year and has better benefits.
Yeah, I love it.
So that's step number one, get unbiased advice. From there, I would encourage you to take an assessment and score your program on the 7 categories of benefits value. So you can see how you're doing compared to your peers. From there, you can identify opportunities, you can set goals, and then develop roadmaps to achieve them. And so if you want to get rid of that waste, maximize the return on your benefits investment, deliver more value to your employees, and improve your profitability and the value of your company, that's really the general process and roadmap that employers need to go on.
And is Health Compass something they could do that? Do you provide that assessment? Do you do that? Is that where they should go? Because you got the 7-point assessment, but where do we go to get that?
Yes. So, I mean, there are a few in the marketplace, but yes, if you go to healthcompassconsulting.com, we have a tool that we call our Total Benefits Assessment. It's a quick benefits checkup. It just takes a few minutes to complete. Anyone can do it. Even an employee can complete it. And you'll get a detailed report showing how you're doing compared to your peers. And then from there, they can download a copy of my book or, book in a call with us.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, because I'm thinking of a client that could use this. Okay, so I'm like, okay, I know who's getting this recording before it even comes out. Okay, so I'm like, but I just want people to have a place to go.
Yeah.
I know you'd be giving this, and you just did, which is great because again, for me and we're big as a coach, and just life in general, I'm big on imperfect action. Like you got to start the ball rolling.
Yeah. Don't
think about fixing this is a lot of money that you're losing. Okay. You're leaving a lot of, like I do with most business. I find lost profit, didn't even know where it was missing. Here it is. This is a huge place where you don't even realize how much, like you said, if you're averaging 4,000 and you get it down to 1,800, okay, per thing, like, okay, I'll take that. Okay, I'll take that profit. I got things to do with that money.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's all money that can be reinvested in sales and marketing.
Right.
I mean, it's like you think about the exponential effect of those gains, and it's really amazing.
Well, you turn what's a liability into a partial asset now, because now that extra $2,500 or whatever you're saving, that becomes asset for the company. Right?
Absolutely.
Where that 4,000, that 4,000 a year or whatever it is, that's a massive liability.
Yep.
I mean, it's in the liability column. It's not anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly. You can unlock trapped working capital, right?
That's it.
I mean, that's it. It's all there. You just have to go unlock it.
I love
Set it free and then use it.
Yep. I love it. This is so good, Don, because it's like, I use some of the same terminology, right? We're doing the same thing in different places in a business, but this is a big one. To me, this is as a business owner, this is like a constant thorn.
Yeah.
Okay. That you just can't get. It's just every time you stroke that check, You know what I mean? You're paying the stuff you do. You're just like, it's hard.
I think you're touching on something that's really important to people, and that is that, or what's really frustrating is that they don't have clarity, right? And I don't know about you, but for me, like if I don't understand how something works, it pisses me off.
It's like my kids when they ask me, well, why can't I do this? And it's because I said so. That's right where that fits.
Yes.
It's like you're the kid going, but
Yeah.
that
We want to
solves
know why.
nothing. I
Right.
just get more angry. My kids just get more angry when you tell them that, right? We're the same way. Okay, we're the kid.
Yep.
Say, well, why do I got to pay $5,000 average? Because.
Right.
That's the end.
And this is something that I think the insurance industry has been masterful in lowering expectations of employers. Right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Think of, I mean, I've sat in so many open enrollment meetings when I was on the carrier side of the business, and where people said, you know what, healthcare costs just go up every year, and there's really not a whole lot you can do about it. And as a result, the CFOs and the CEOs and the owners say, you know what, if there's nothing I can do about it, I don't need to be in this meeting anymore. HR, you deal with it.
It's the antithesis to business. We're not lowering the expectations of our clients. Okay. I don't lower the expectations to my team, my employees.
Yeah.
We raise them.
Yeah.
Okay. We inspect what we expect. We do the whole deal. Like we know what's going on in our business. And this little thing that we're forced to do and provide, and you can't get any clarity on it, that is just, it's just a constant irritation.
It is. When we've acquired customers, we've had executives say, this has always been the most frustrating part of my business.
Yep.
Straight up.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. So I am super excited, Donovan, that people have an outlet, and that's Health Compass. So Health Compass, give me the website one more time. Health Compass.
Sure. Yeah. If you want to take the total benefits assessment, again, that's a quick benefits checkup. You'll get instant feedback on how to improve your scores. Go to www.healthcompassconsulting.com. That's healthcompassconsulting.com. You'll see the little button there that says take benefits assessment. Boom. And you'll get some insights right away.
And I'm going to, like I often do, there's times I recommend things more than others at the end of the show. Like I'm going to highly recommend everyone do this. If you're in this position at any level, you should get this assessment done because you really need to get clarity on what this is. You've just heard the potential savings. Okay. And that's profit, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
if you cut this health benefit by $40,000 a year, that's 100% profit. Do you understand? Like it's 100% profit.
Yeah.
Okay. It's some found money.
Just a quick story, Richard. We got a call from a teachers union a few years ago, and they had 10,000 employees in this school district. The executive director of the union says, listen, we've got our teachers sitting on this insurance committee, and they're smart people, but they don't know this insurance and stuff, and they're being asked to make decisions about the $65 million healthcare budget. And we were hoping that we could just hire you guys to just help us explain the lay of the land, who does what and why. Right. So that was our first engagement with them, was just to take their committee members and help educate them as to here's these vendors, here's what they do, here's their role, here's how they get paid, here's the problem with that, blah, 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 etc. So we did that, and they said, great, that was awesome. Can we hire you now to do a deep dive on our plans themselves and give us some recommendations? Like, what's the low-hanging fruit that we should be really pushing for in these committee meetings? So we did that, and we found that this is a pretty large self-funded health plan, and the costs were astronomical. And we said, wow, you guys, your broker hasn't taken the plan, or the pharmacy benefit manager, to RFP, hasn't looked for alternative options in 7 years. And by the way, you're with one of the worst pharmacy benefit managers. So they went to RFP last year. Or the year before, they got 11 responses. They didn't even go with the best one, but they saved $3.6 million last year on prescription drugs. And it was just around having the awareness that we didn't know that this vendor is not very good at what they do. Their financial interests are not aligned with ours. We should look for alternatives. And that's all it took, was just a little bit of awareness.
Yeah, I'm totally with you, and I love it. That's kind of the theme of this whole thing, is really getting aware of this stuff, knowing that these options are out there, because it is, like I said, a point of contention, frustration for any business owner of pretty much any size. Because there's the other side of the coin too. These people, I used to get frustrated. People call like to apply for a job, like if I got a job opening, and the first question is, "Well, do you have benefits?" And I said, no, all I got is a disconnection of this phone line. Because my focus, like, all you're calling me about is benefits, not what the job is, how you're going to perform for me, what you're going to do for me. Like, you want to work? I'm like, so see, it just keeps stacking and makes it
Yeah.
more frustrating, because I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not going to, you're just coming here for a workers' comp claim. That's what you're coming here for. I'm like, you probably got a bad back. You want to work for me for 2 days with a shovel and you're done. Okay. You're going to file a claim. I'm like, so again, we could spend hours, my man, but this has been so good. I love it. I want people to go to the website. So it'll be in the show notes in this show. So good, but let's get those assessments done so we can start saving some money. Cause I think it's going to be an incredibly high percentage of you that will be able to save money when you get into this stuff, because again, it's not there on the front end to save you money. That's not its intention, right? But Donovan here is bringing you a method. Okay, he's bringing you the method.
Even if you're a small company, and I can't say this with 100% certainty, but even if you're a small company under 50 employees, there are oftentimes opportunities that you're not being shown. So ask questions, dig in, and we're here to support you.
Awesome. Well, Donovan, thank you for all the time today. This has been just outstanding. I appreciate it. I knew I was excited for a reason to get you on, and you didn't let me down. And I appreciate that very much. So, and for everybody else, we will see you on the next STS podcast.
Beautiful. Thanks so much.
And don't forget, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. So if you want to see how I can show you at least $100,000 in hidden annual profits in less than 3 minutes, and not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend, guaranteed, just go to sharpenthespiritcoaching.com. See how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespiritcoaching.com. Do it now.